Lively and unrehearsed, we welcome you to Moral Side of the News. I'm John Blim with the WHAS Crusade for Children. With me, as always, is a distinguished panel. Reverend Sally McClain, Christian Church, Disciples of Christ. Rabbi Ben Fried, Keneseth Israel Congregation. And Father Tony Smith, Archdiocese of Louisville. Our first topic, Donald Trump is making headlines again this week. The former president pled not guilty to 37 federal charges, ranging from retaining national defense information to obstructing justice. Panel, despite the latest charges against him, Trump has a loyal following and believes he should be back in the White House.
We all have daydreams. I mean, I listen, with the whole routine of the election, that's another issue, but I'm concerned about the charges and whatever. He has the constitutional right to be stated being innocent until proven guilty, and we give him that. For those, I would say, for the mega group or whoever were saying that there's a double standard here between, President Biden and Hillary Clinton and people of that ilk, those are different cases. And I would say, looking at the evidence that's been produced, I haven't read all the indictments yet, or the indictment yet. But what's being put out is, and since damning, it's a different issue because the response the individuals ex-President Trump gave as opposed to President Biden and all the other folks. There's a sense of entitlement to it. I would want to bring this up. The ex-president, yes, understood. It's a different scenario, but you have who's that Jack Terexel, whatever his name was, the airman who gave away top secret. He's still in jail waiting for trial. And of course, the president got in his plane and flew away. Now, there's obviously little chance that ex-President Trump is going to be fleeing the country and things of this nature. But it does show that there's entitlement given to the rich and whatever that those who are not do not have. So that's part of my concern about the indictments. But also, I would say to you, John, you were saying that his supporters still support him, but he's losing ground in that. If you look at was it Paul Ryan, obviously, Chris Christie, and Bill Barr? If you saw that interview, Bill Barr is really, it's a damning interview. He said, what is his comment? If half of the indictment is true, he's toast. That's what his comment is. And even this morning, I understand Mike Pence came out and said, what he's read obviously upsets him and it's very illegal. So I would say let's let the government, the case play out as we should do with everyone and see how it goes. My opening comments.
The thing about Donald Trump, the thing that my son says about Donald Trump is that the media loves him because anytime his name is mentioned, on goes the TV programs. And so he said, what he does is call up attention, and then he does this faction between who's on his side and who isn't. I think the thing that bothers me is the leadership quality. He doesn't bring out the best of us. He brings out the worst of us. And it's like this groundswell that keeps coming up from the ground of negativity and anger and all sorts of things. And leadership to me, whether you be a parent or a church leader or a political leader, is to bring out the best in people. And I am so tired of bringing out the worst in people and seeing that happen repeatedly.
Yeah, and to me, the other really difficult thing about this is just the divorcing from reality and truth of so many people. That truth is such a bedrock concept that we can all agree that certain things happen or certain things don't happen. And that, Trump delights in having someone fact check him and then just saying, no, you're wrong, and creating his own alternate truth or alternate reality of facts. And in our liturgy every day, in Judaism, we say these words where we say emet atahu rishon, emet atahu acharon, which can be translated in two different ways. In one way, it can mean truly God, you are first, and truly God, you are the end, almost an alpha and omega sort of a thing for the Christians here. But it also could be translated as truth, you come first, and truth, you come last. And this idea that if we do not have truth, then without it we are unmoored, and we do not have the ability to stand as a society. And I think that what Donald Trump does and what he continues to do is he fights these allegations just simply by saying they're not true, even though they seem to. And again, we presume that he is innocent until proven guilty, but he doesn't seem to make any attempt to show why they're not true. He simply just says it and expects people to take it as fact. And some people do. And that's a really scary thing, that if we're not operating as a society with a common understanding of truth.
Well, if I may jump in, if that's possible, I've recognized the utility of the quote Donald Trump in America. He has served a great purpose, the way the devil has served a purpose in theology and the Bible. He reveals a lot of truth. You mentioned, Rabbi Fried, about truth. He just reveals. He's the instrument to reveal truth and bring it to the head, just like the boil. You cannot be free until the boil comes to a head and you lance it. He brings it all to the surface so that it can be seen and lanced. We do indeed hold these truths to be self-evident. They're so obvious. Humanity has always had a romance with evil characters. I just recently bought a DVD again of the evil characters on DC Comics, and it chronicles all of the. It's about an hour and a half documentary, really, on the evil characters in the DC Comics. And if you didn't have these nemesis, these evil guys, and then the DVD was entitled "The Necessary Evil." If you didn't have these necessary evils, you wouldn't be able to see the greatness of the DC heroes, to come to the Justice League, all those who come out to redeem the world from these villains, these necessary evils. And there's always been an attraction. I don't care what movie you go to, the evil person is the strongest personality in the room. We still have a fascination, believe it or not, with Hitler. I'm amazed at all the documentaries that is always on History channels, DVDs, and production. I mean, we have this attraction with Adolf Hitler, which is a testament to how we just love evil characters. We have just an irresistible attraction to them. So Donald Trump is just the current example of that attraction in humanity that is attracted to such a demonstrative, undeniable, irrefutable, evil character. And he's just a foil, really. He just exposes where this country is. This country has always been here at its root, when it's denial of the reality of slavery in this nation, discounting the slave that's not even human, but calling them 3/5 human. It's been at the root in the Constitution. It was baked in the cake. So it just shows us who this country has always been. There's, thank God, there's always been those who have fought against it, but it's been a fight. It's been a struggle. It's been a proverbial struggle of Jacob and Israel. It's been a proverbial struggle. It's always been a struggle. And so it's a never ending struggle. We can never relent from that struggle against evil, or else evil will prevail. The only way evil prevails is if good people do nothing. Right. So we can't just sit on the sideline and watch it on TV. As far as the media just wants to get ratings. They don't care who gets it, how they get it. So everybody wants to show up for a good fight. Everybody wants to show up for the rumble in the jungle, the thrill in Manila. Everybody wants to show up for a good fight, and Donald Trump just makes for good copy, and that's all it is. So, in this latest episode is just the more that he's brought to the forefront, the more charges that are brought, the more the excitement, the more mayhem, the more dust that's stirred up, the better for the media, because they get more ratings, get more viewers, and get more likes. So that's his latest episode here. I think he's taking it to a fever pitch. Every round goes higher and higher. Every round goes deeper and higher and higher. He gets more and more. The scoop of ice cream gets piled up higher and higher. Just more and more and more and more and more with Donald Trump. So I personally, believing in the sovereignty of God and truth prevailing, I believe that ultimately truth will prevail. And this is just the latest episode of that wrestling match with the truth. Like Dr. King said, lie can't live forever. Truth presses around will rise again. So it's going to be a struggle. A lie can't live forever, and truth will indeed rise. Because it always does.
I'll say, Clay, you mentioned about the media, what the media gets out of this, but it's principle of business too, that any news is good for the business, and it's also good for Donald Trump. In fact, it brings to my mind the psychological principle that you mentioned Adolf Hitler, the Nazis used. What Goebbels, whatever his name was saying, if you repeat the lie long enough, it becomes the truth.
Right.
So that may be possibly the motive for reason behind his denial. But as we say, the logical person, it would seem, when you see the photographs and hear the testimony of individuals who were present, that when his denials simply become ridiculous on that. But it's the more it's in the public eye, Miss Sally, as you said, regards he's there in the good, bad, or indifferent, he's in the news. That's good for Donald Trump in the sense of his position with the mega group and whatever.
Yeah.
Well, two things. One of the things is that a lot of criticism about the crown in Great Britain is that we don't need that drama. Well, what sort of drama do we have now? This is just repeated drama after drama after drama, and it seems unending. The other thing that I thought was interesting that I heard last night is that one of Trump's appeal is not necessarily that he would get the nomination, not necessarily that he would be president, but that the Republicans would win, and that whomever is the president and happens to be a Republican would pardon him. And so I thought that was really kind of interesting, because that's what he's aiming for, as opposed so much to winning the election or getting the nomination even, but making that reality happen for him so that he can go unpunished again.
Yeah, far be it from me to be the one to quote the gospel in this crowd, but there's I believe there's something that you shall know the truth and the truth shall make you free. For him, it might be that if he knows the truth, then the truth shall, put him somewhere where he's a little less free. But that's I think it's just, it's an unfortunate circumstance. And as some of y'all have mentioned, the media, I was a journalist before I became a rabbi. And a lot of this has to do with, you mentioned profit and the privatization of media and the conglomeratization of media. And, you see newsrooms not only playing up Trump, but also cutting local journalists and doing all of these things because they see themselves only as means for their shareholders to make more money and not as engines of the fourth estate. And I think that the really wonderful news journalism that you see happening is most often in nonprofit newsrooms, from National Public Radio, the Texas Tribune down in Texas. There's a wonderful nonprofit newsroom out of Philadelphia that kind of this alternative model for news in which you do not simply answer to shareholders, I think is really an important part of this, because absolutely, right? Donald Trump, because we can't get away from the drama, as Sally said, he's going to keep paying the bills because people keep tuning in.
Well, you mentioned media. I just want to copy. Many are probably aware of the shakeup at CNN. Okay, and a lot of media shakeup. CNN, obviously, with the dismissing some of their major personalities, and what's happening at Fox News, for example, and then MSNBC to some degree, but they're trying to get back in and claim a greater share of the media market. So it appears that CNN is trying to move more to the center to claim some of the viewers that Fox had, and they're letting more of their more radical voices go and moving, just kind of shifting. You with them airing that town hall meeting just recently with Donald Trump. Many complained about the value and the virtue of allowing him to have a town hall meeting, and for CNN that was just a business decision. It didn't have anything to do with morality. It had to do with a business decision and who would tune in to watch it, and based on the viewership, it paid off. So that's just a business decision for the media. They're just trying to gain viewers. They have no moral obligation to anyone but their shareholders, and to that end they want to get whatever's going to have them tuning in, and that is the ultimate concern for the media outlet, sad to say.
I think one of the things that we haven't talked about is trust. Do we trust our legal system? Do we trust that people will be held accountable? Do we trust our leadership? I think there has been such a dismantling of what's going on in the country ever since 2016 and maybe a little bit before. So who do we trust now? And that works out even in our personal lives. Where does this trust go?
And if I may, Sally, who is we? Right? That when we say, do we trust, does that mean we people who think that it seems that Donald Trump might be guilty, or is that the people who were protesting outside the courthouse, yesterday, who don't believe that any trial that he undergoes through or goes through will be fair because he's under a political witch hunt, right? The we is cracking in terms of the who do we trust. And so that it's not just about who do we trust, it's who is the we who are doing the trusting.
Well, I think you can trust your money. The money is a unique. Our currency is ironically enough probably one of the most reliable evangelists in this argument, because on every single piece of U.S. currency they have on there, "In God we trust." And I think that's a great little reminder. There are some absolutes that appears to be an environment of moral relativity, but there are some absolutes that you can trust, that's trustworthy. Whatever our tradition may be, you have to, latch hold of those rock solid absolutes that allow you to evaluate everything else. Because otherwise it'd be a lot of hocus pocus. And as the scripture said, I believe in Isaiah 5, said, "What are those who call evil good and good evil? And put light for darkness, darkness for light, put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter." I mean, there have to be some absolutes in order to evaluate what truth is, what wrong is, what the right is, and what wrong is. I mean, you have to have some absolutes that you evaluate everything else with and through. So, I mean, thank God for that, but those absolutes that allow us to do that.
But what do you do? What do you do when you can't all agree on the absolutes? That's what we're coming to. When we're coming to a point where what do we do when we can't agree on those? I think that's the question of our time, is how do we speak to people for whom those absolutes are all getting flipped, who are worshiping, a political figure.
I would suggest to you that that's been the case since humanity first began.
Of course.
Sorry, my sister, who is an attorney, said, "I cannot believe the distrust of the judicial system."
Yeah. Well,
and from the DOJ to, the special grand jury to whatever is going on in the country that is doing the critique right now. And how can we trust those individuals to make the decision for the country? And we have given them that power.
Right.
Well, look at Sally. You mentioned. Go ahead.
I'm going to just say we hear so much about the weaponization of certain governmental agencies as though that was something new in this present administration. That's been going on as well throughout the history. Even Thomas Jefferson, I understand, recently just came out, his vice president, he basically, Aaron Burr, he had him arrested or whatever because he tried to steal the election even in the time of Thomas Jefferson. That was on the news yesterday. I said, that's a fascinating aspect. So the weaponization, if you use that, because a government agency is trying to utilize the law as it's said in the Constitution, all of a sudden becomes weaponized because they're going against someone they like. Again, that's something that's going to, in our country, has been since day one. We have to constantly fight against that whole aspect of weaponization, but it's not just one department, one party, it's both parties.
Well, but again, we do have some absolutes as the in book of Deuteronomy, I think it's 1620, I think it is 1620 or 1619, I can't recall, 1920, one or two. It says justice and justice alone shall you pursue when you go into the land. And it warns against having a corrupt justice system,
right,
and having unjust weights. Here we see the justice system from the Supreme Court on down. Recently, Clarence Thomas has been called into question for being bribed by someone paying. That's basically a bribery, pure and simple. So you have the Supreme Court, and a member of the Supreme Court who clearly is involved in bribery and being influenced by money. And so you have that. You have the Department of Justice, because a report that was issued in Louisville, Kentucky, with the police department here. They had a scathing report about the unjust practice of the police department here in Louisville, Kentucky. You have the Attorney General in Kentucky. You have Daniel Cameron, who again was caught and refusing to bring a prosecution in that Breonna Taylor case. They say you can indict a ham sandwich, but he refused to bring. So you have the the whole judicial system is called into question because it's been proven and demonstrated time again it's not been trustworthy.
But Clay, that all depends upon your foundation. You say from the scriptures, if you're not Judeo-Christian, that may not be the absolute that they mean. So you say this is the absolute. The term absolute gets thrown around quite often. We need to be careful about that, like the concept of we. What do you mean by the absolute, et cetera? So Judeo-Christians may accept this.
But therein lies the question. We should be the witness, even if the world does not. We at least should be the witness.
And that's fine, okay? But not
so,
the United
so
States.
Even if the world does not accept it, to whom much is given, much is required, right?
Judeo-Christian again. If you're not Judeo-Christian.
What about the Constitution?
Exactly.
Do we trust the Constitution?
But that's not absolute either. What right in the Constitution is absolute? None.
Well, you may have an argument on that one, Tony. Of course, you know that to be true. But again, it was a work in progress. It's still a work. That's why you have so many amendments.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's a work in progress. Good start, but a work in progress.
Exactly. So what I'm hearing with this panel this morning is Donald Trump. Yeah, but we've got a lot of work, as Rabbi Ben said, to that we need to get that we on solid ground before we can advance right, wrong, indifferent, whatever. And
how does it?
One of the beauties of this country is we're not just Judeo-Christian. So,
because how does the Constitution start? We the people.
Right. So it's not we.
Right. Who's the we?
Right. Well, one thing which for sure did not include African slaves. It didn't include them. They were not in the we.
Correct.
Right. And it didn't include women.
Come on, Clay. Women.
Right.
I mean, we are a large part of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
White males.
No, African women were not included in the we. Right. So again, clearly it was it was flawed from the beginning. It's been a work in progress.
Right.
We're moving toward. We made a lot of progress. We still have a long way to go.
So what do we call the letter of the law? What do we call that?
Good start. We call it a good start. That's what we call it.
Well, I think part of what we're talking about is that there are people, for every time that we gets expanded to include more people, they feel threatened about their place in the we.
Right.
That because their power dilutes. And so what we're seeing is a lot of backlash against new people coming into that. You see it in the anti-immigration sentiment. You see it in the Islamophobia. You see it in the racism. You see it in the misogyny. You see it in the homophobia and the transphobia. These are all people who are threatened by other people who are part of that we, and they don't want them to be. They want to be the only ones who get to be part of that we, the people. And I think part of our role as clergy is to take an expansive view as to who that we, the people, are, and what that means.
Well, look at the marginalized. I mean, isn't that what we're for as clergy, to pay attention to the marginalized? And so when we bring the marginalized into we, the people, you're right. I think, Rabbi Ben, that does create a problem.
Well, we get off the topic here real quick, haven't we, John?
Well, we, the moral side of the news, let's move on to something else. We've got about 5 minutes left. And I just want to hit on 2 more topics today. And these are good topics. Let's talk about that for a change. Next up, a miraculous tale of survival in the Amazon. 4 children were found alive in the Amazon jungle more than a month after their plane crashed. The Colombian military says eating cassava flour helped save the 4 children, ages 13, 9, 4, and an infant. They were found malnourished but fully conscious. Panel, I think this is a miracle. What do you think?
Yeah, it's a testament to determination. I mean, and then I don't know how the baby survived. I guess they gave the baby the flour too. I guess that was a classic example of we-ness. They survived together. The need identified a coming together. We can do more together than we can ever do apart. And these children figured that out, and somehow they survived by the grace of God and also the determination and some innate in them to want to rally together, turn to each other instead of against each other. So it's a testament to how, as the Bible says, the children shall lead them. They maybe just do what the children do. Just feed and recognize a common need, and and we can get along. We're all in the same boat together.
One of the comments, though, remember, is these are indigenous children. Mm-hmm. In other words, they're of the jungle in a sense of. I wonder if we had 4 kiddos from, say, the upper New York City or something on that plane, would they have survived? So it's not just the we together, but it's also what nature and God, the divine, has given these kids. If they had that ability to live in the jungle, that gives them a leg up, if you would, than the kids who are not trained such.
And they took care of the least of them.
The baby.
Make sure that the baby survived as well. And
Isn't
I
that
think
wonderful?
that's our task.
Yeah.
I really do think that's our task.
All right, panel. Excellent. We've got about 3 minutes left, and I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the 70th annual WHAS Crusade for Children tallied more than $6.2 million just a few weeks ago. That's the second largest annual total in the Crusade's history. Panel, people have big hearts, and this will make a big difference in the lives of children with special needs.
It's phenomenal to see the level of generosity in the community. As someone who's only been in Louisville for a couple of years, it's really just amazing to see the community come out and support this incredible cause in this way. As I said to my friend, this is just about the only crusade that I can get behind as a Jew. But I think it's really, really incredible that the community's come together to support in this way.
And that's a we thing. I mean, it took everybody working together, which is what we did. And it was fun, and it was joyous, and it was a celebration. Wow. Did we ever need that in our lives, John? Thank you so much, and all your staff, for what you've done.
Amen.
Amen and ditto.
Amen. I wasn't able to be there, but I was overjoyed by the outcome and the great good that can come from the contribution. So it's just amazing and commendable and thankful that we had the result that was achieved. So thank God for all that contributed.
And also, just an information, it's always good on the advisory council when we meet, we have more money than we categorize. We were going to give out a certain amount. We get more money. We have to have the joyous task of assigning more money now to different groups.
Yeah, you weren't there.
Well,
You weren't at the meeting. So you can't speak to that. Sorry about that.
I've been there before, many times.
I'm calling you into account. Yes.
If I'm not mistaken, more than $11 million in requests came into the crusade this year. So not every need can be
Exactly.
met. But of course, this will go a long way in making a big difference in the lives of children with special needs.
It means there's room for growth.
Yes, exactly right. And thank you to our panel on this edition of Moral Side of the News, Reverend Sally McClain, Rabbi Ben Fried, Reverend Clay Calloway, and Father Tony Smith. Thanks for joining us for this adventure in We today on Moral Side of the News. And we'll be back again next week with an all-new episode of Moral Side of the News. Thank you, panel.
Our total is 6.
Thanks to you, the 70th annual WHAS Crusade for Children was a huge success. But it's not too late to donate. You can donate anytime. Just go to WHAScrusade.org. That's WHAScrusade.org and see the many ways you can donate. Plus, you can always mail your contribution to 520 West Chestnut Street, Louisville, Kentucky 40202. That's 520 West Chestnut Street, Louisville, Kentucky 40202. Thanks for changing a child's life by contributing to the WHAS Crusade for Children.